Many Nagaru look at the current state of the world and see our people suffering throughout the diaspora. Famine, genocide, ignorance, and a lack of respect from other nations seems to be the historical norm for Mother Africa and her children, who find themselves at the bottom of the social order everywhere they reside. If they are not treated with outright hostility, they are seen as less than, pitied, undervalued and underestimated. This leaves our people in a precarious position, constantly trying to appease or prove their worth to others, never feeling quite good enough while living in the image and after the likeness of another's religion, culture, rituals and system of morality. Even on the mother continent, black Muslims and Christians fight and kill one another over an invader's religion, and both willfully kill, mistreat and beggar Nagaru who practice our original culture of animism. We are constantly looking for a place in someone else's way of life, and as a result our power as children of the Natharu is harnessed and exploited for the profit of others. In modern times they call this the brain drain of the developing world. Our best and brightest leave their homelands to serve others in their profession, only to be used and abused by foreigners. As above so below, in the West, Nagaru find it next to impossible to peacefully work among our own, especially when one holds a position of authority. Many Nagaru will happily take orders from Caucasus, learn from them, help them, cheer them on, but let fellow Nagaru correct them on the job in public or private and watch grown folk turn petulant. Yes, we still suffer from the crabs in a barrel syndrome or that only brother at the party shtick. If we compete amongst each other yet willfully serve the enemy, there's only one answer to the equation, and the scales of Ma don't weigh in favor of our people, yet as above, so below. As the Caucasus and Pale Arabu engage in oppression and exploitation across the planet, his overlords the Pleiadians and Draconian Reptilians have reached such a high advancement in technology they are now able to use actual souls as a power source. They drain these souls to the point of dissipation and replace them as one would a battery. This does not bode well for us Nagaru. Being the only people on the planet who have sun heat genes and being living souls as opposed to just spirit puts us firmly in the crosshairs of these vicious reptiles. Whereas Caucasus are on the menu as a food source. Amongst the Galactic Council the Draconians now have a reason to petition our Natharu overseers for the right to abduct us. This petition was granted. Any Nagaru that has fallen from the straight way, Ma'at, has forfeited their soul to Amit. Bondage in the flesh can only last your allotted 120 years, but to slowly be devoured as a soul puts a whole new perspective on our Tamarayan ancestors' guide for the judgment of the dead. Knowing this information gives us every incentive to tip the scales of Ma'at back in our favor and return to our true way of life, Wu-Sabat. Remember, as above so below. Our elder brothers and fellow comrades against oppression the Rumardians, led by Commander Krill, have been fighting a losing battle against these same insatiable Draconians. Many of their species have been kidnapped, enslaved, genetically modified, crossbred and hybridized. A lot of the varying types of Greys abductees described today have been bred from original Rumardian stock. The Greys have had their sexual organs bred out of them and can now only reproduce through cloning. Their immune system and digestive tract have also been atrophied. Many species of Grey eat through skin absorption, swimming through a slurry of blood, body parts and noxious chemicals that help kill bacteria and aid in digestion. All this keeps them fully dependent on their overlords, and in these days and times the insatiable consumerist the Caucasus is now dabbling in genetic engineering and cloning. We Nagaru already dye and burn our hair to look like them, use contact lenses to light our eyes and wear expensive clothes designed by their homosexuals. Many of our African brothers and sisters pay exorbitant prices to sit in baths of hot noxious chemicals that enable them to literally scrape off their dermal melanin, an extreme form of skin bleaching. Sound familiar? We attend their fertility clinics, birth in their hospitals, use their plastic surgeons, dentists, opticians, chiropractors, beauticians, and when we're dead our families seek out their morticians and bury our bodies in a Christian, Muslim or Judaic burial grounds, using one of their ceremonies. What do we have or do that's ours? If Nagaru are not careful we will soon find ourselves in the exact same position as the Rumardians. Today, humans of all races find themselves completely dependent on technology, be it professionally, economically or even in a domestic capacity. Those who are in charge of the technology control the day-to-day lives of the populace. Now I ask you, why do so many African countries call on foreigners like the Chinese and Europeans to build their railroads, power plants, mines and equipment? Why were the Berbers, who rule Egypt today, in a position to build the Aswan Dam, washing away our ancient Nubian heritage, and the wannabe Arabicized Sudanese in no position to stop them? Yes, there have been many black inventors throughout history, but how many Naga-owned tech companies can you name? How much stock do you own in these companies? Does your buying power have any sway on the future direction or decisions these large Western and Eastern conglomerates make around the world? Living in a world on the verge of AI mastery, How many African-owned silicon chip manufacturers exist today? As our potential future dawns on us, we must never forget, as above so below. What we put in our minds automatically affects the gross matter reality we call three-dimensional space. We are bioelectrical, melaninite beings. Wherever there is electricity there is magnetism, as magnetism is used to create electricity. What you think you will attract, your thoughts create reality regardless of your physical attempts to mold and steer the course of your future. Add to this the fact that your melanin naturally absorbs electromagnetic radiation faster than other races, which keeps you on a higher frequency. What does this mean exactly? The answer is in the word frequent. We Nagaru move through the cycle of cause and effect at faster rate than other races. We experience the results of our actions or karma on a shorter cycle, while other races, such as the Caucasus, are given what's called a grace period. As we study the history of those like the Caucasus and Arabu, and the devastation their actions have wrought around the world, especially to Mother Africa and the diaspora, any sane thinking individual would come to the conclusion that nature should have removed their influence from Earth long before they were in a position to affect the very existence of Tiamat herself. It has not escaped the attention of even the average layman that crimes committed by Caucasus take decades to come to light, and once uncovered, punishment is minimal or non-existent. While even an unproven allegation can ruin the life of Nagaru, regardless of the fact that their life might have had a huge positive influence on society at large, some might even say because of it. Clearly, they are being assisted by a quote-unquote higher power, that higher power being their overlords. The fact that our universe has just come out of its rest or lunar cycle recently has also worked to their advantage. During the aforementioned lunar cycle, predatory sentient, animal and plant life are given prominence through the lower vibratory emissions of the solar bodies during this rest period that influence our planet, namely the Sun. These emissions were called by our ancestors Apep or Leviathan, Levi, meaning law, and Athan, meaning sin. The Sumerians personified sin as the deity Nannar, also called Nannar Sin, son of Enlil and Ninlil, who is their crescent moon god they call Allah. The cult of Nannar demands the sacrifice of blood and flesh in fire, akin to Eid al-Adha of the Muslims and the many sacrifice rituals recorded throughout the book of Leviticus of the Hebrews. Those who know the book of Leviticus understand that Yeshua Jesus dying for our sins is nothing but a Levitical sin offering, which completes the triad or pitchfork of the Abrahamic religions. Abraham originated in the city of Ur in Chaldea. The word Ur means flames or fire, and Chaldea comes from the root word shad, meaning demon, as in El-Shadi, meaning my mighty demon. It is no coincidence that the temple of the ziggurat of Ur was dedicated to Nannar, and ancient Mesopotamian tablets claim Ur as the land of Nannar Sin. Now, since Abraham left Ur at the request of his deity, traveled westward towards Egypt and lied and extorted wealth from an old pharaoh named Abimelech, whose name means father of the king, so he was retired. Does that mean Abraham could be considered, as a Chaldean of Ur, a demon that came from the fire or hell? If we look at the history of the Abrahamic religions from an African perspective, they have bought nothing but lies, invasion, slavery and exploitation. Remember, the Hebrews came into Africa en masse during the Hyksos invasion of Egypt. They then lied in their Torah and claimed they were our slaves, demonizing the true victims, Africans, to a world stage to garner sympathy. Their exodus was initiated by the Nubians living in Upper Egypt, who pushed them out of northern Africa and back to their desolate scrap of wasteland called the land of Canaan. From a foreigner's perspective, there is no difference between a Hebrew and a Canaanite, if there is one. When an American or British soldier steps onto your land, regardless of their race, they still sport the flag and uniform while pointing guns at your family and stealing your resources. They clearly have the same intentions, right? Why would or should the victim care about the internal political conflicts of the invader, be they religious or racial? Why should the African diaspora care about the conflicts of those who claim Abraham as their father? They brought only death, disease and confusion. As a Bedouin people they bring only desertification, death, like a virus, roaming from land to land, usurping or suppressing the native culture and people. They not like us. These Mesopotamian religions are based on faith. This is defined in the Bible in the Epistle to the Hebrews in the 11th chapter, the first verse. It says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." This means that faith is not based on confirmation. Faith means to accept things that have not been proven to you. What we practice is faith. This is independent of any belief system. It is based on a universal law that states for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. His principle has been expressed in many different ways. Some say what goes up must come down. Some say you reap what you have sown. Some say what goes around, comes back around. They have nothing to do with religious doctrine. This is why bad things happen to good people. With fate, you are in control of your own destiny. Your destiny is your destination. Your destiny or destination is determined by the choices you make. Things or people that control your decisions control your destiny. Religious people put their destiny in the hands of an unseen, unconfirmed, fictitious character that has been established so that you feed your spiritual energy and your physical energy into forces that need you in order to subsist, spiritually and physically. It's like the Wizard of Oz but more demonic and diabolical. They have convinced you that you are Dorothy and must follow this yellow brick road to see the wizard, God. You spend your whole life on this path. Just like the Wizard of Oz, the so-called mystical power this God possesses is really man-made. The God you worship in your scriptures that is man-made. God was created in the hearts and minds of its authors. As the authors became authentic, their documents became authentic. Within the pages of their documents called scriptures, God was born. Man was not created in the image and likeness of God. God was created in the image and likeness of man. This is why you have so many human attributes for God. Islam has 99 attributes which can all be attributed to man in some way, shape or form. This is why God has character flaws like anger and jealousy. Why would a being who knows what was, is and will be, get angry or jealous over a thing in which he created? Makes no sense at all. This God of theirs, Nanner, is the head of a group of bloodthirsty, flesh-eating beings. They lure us like prey through pleasure and wealth. Wealth the Caucasus and Arabu stole from under our feet. Do not become as those who spend their entire lives in pursuit of luxury, only to find that life has passed them by, and that they never obtained the wealth they sought. Yes, you should have goals in your life that you want to reach. Gods that will help unite us, and create a world that is safe for all children. And if along the way, you see something beautiful that you would like to own, by all means own it. Only remember that you should not allow yourself to become so attached to your worldly possessions until you forget everything else. We must overcome the trivialities of the physical plane instilled in us by these foreigners who lack higher emotions. They know only lust, pleasure and domination, installed in them by their overlords in Genesis 1:28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. You were not born to rot and die, yet, you intermixed your divine DNA with those who were given only 6,000 years. Then they would, as the sun's rays touched them on the dawn of the new day, rot, corrode, and deteriorate like Dracula, little by little after their allotted time. The Caucasus, their helpers of sub-races, grafted natural food into mankind's synthetic foods, drinks, smokes and flesh. They have many Nagaru indulging in their fake unnatural chemicals. This fake, some say fast food, processed, as well as genetically modified organisms are designed to degrade your immune system just as the reptilians have practiced towards the Rumardian Greys. They serve you junk to downgrade your DNA to junk. So the phrase eat to live is not about how much or how often one eats, it's about natural intake. They know you're not the same as those grafted from you. First, it was you alone on this planet for many millions of years. It was a black planet. Next, from you were the aborigine of what is now called Southeast Asia or Australia, and they bred and moved north from island to island until they ended up in what's called today, India. Then came the Asiatics of the Far East, ranging from what is called today Mongolia to China, the Koreas, on down to Vietnam and the nearby islands such as the Philippines and Japan. The mixture of the Aborigines, Indians and Eastern Asians birthed many subgroups. Later, much later, the human beast of Northeast descended on them. These were diseased, cursed lepers who raped, killed, and plundered their way westward through Arabia to Europe, birthing many sub-breeds from Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Poland, Scotland, and Iceland, from island to island, land to land, mixing their cursed genes. Then finally back in and around the outskirts of Africa as Canaanites, Moabites, Ammonites and Israelites from North Africa to across westwards. From Egypt to Morocco as Berbers or savage barbarians, spreading his disease and opinions, called Zom or religion. Africa is not your only home. The whole earth once belonged to you alone, not just one continent. Then you shared it with those that came from you. Now they seek to rule it as their own and use you as a tool or a weapon to help them kill and rob all others, as his pet. He gives you a mental or physical uniform and religion and you fall asleep into his mind, removed out of your own mind. Remember, you don't need them, they need you. We are elevating to the point where we are using our mind more than our body. We, therefore, have the potential to evolve into spiritual beings. Once a spiritual being, we will live as the people of Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria, beings who transform themselves from mortal to immortal. We will eventually escape the Caucasus, Pale Arabu and their overlords who possess a psychopathic personality or identity profile with a lack of empathy that has no feelings of remorse. These are beings that have lost their consciousness connection to Pa-Put the source, and are utilizing humans and other beings as their food source, siphoning life force like a parasite, to live thousands of years. They do not have emotions as humans have but are highly intelligent as they are working on higher mind principles than the human. These flesh-eating Anakin genetically modify human beings, similarly as a farmer interested in gaining more resources out of his herd of cattle on the farm. They consider humans an investment in their energy resource portfolio. They regard human beings as inferior, stupid, and have been manipulating the human world of affairs for thousands of years, since the Atlantean cataclysm, for their own purposes. They use many technological manipulation methods to mind control and negatively manipulate the future direction of the human race, such as the 3 Abrahamic religions. Having reptilian-based genetics, they operate in strict hierarchical systems of rank, and defer to their superior groups. The Draco or Draconians from Alpha Draconis are in command of Earth-based subterranean reptilians who respect their superiors in the belief system that the Draco are those who hold ownership over Earth and human beings. Draco reptilians view themselves as the most intelligent species in the universe and that Earth humans are the result of their biological seeding processes from multiple planets. The Alpha Draconis Draco have a royal class that appear to be paler colors, white-skinned scales with winged appendages, and are about 2 to 3 times the size of an average human, and very muscular. They are quite menacing and tyrannical, showing little mercy to those of their own race that they think has defied their orders or failed in their responsibilities to manage their earthly resources. Earth-based reptilians appear to be in command over Ebe or biological entities known as small greys. The reptilians have developed high psionic abilities, which they use for mind-controlling other entities, and do not have an emotional or soul body, much like their Caucasus and Pale Arabu children. The known reptilian races on Earth have made a variety of cooperative agreements with the higher ranks of human government and military, which have resulted in shadow government black projects, such as secret space programs and the creation of military-industrial complex to experiment and exploit alien-based technologies, and craft that they have been given access to through their cooperation. Draco are an extremely militant, misogynistic and warring species that are very involved in controlling the power elite, financial, pharmaceutical and banking institutions, promoting war and killing through increasing militarization, poverty consciousness, African enslavement programming, religious violence, terrorism, and the harvesting of humanity's DNA through abduction and experimentation, as well as other species they have under their control. When our planet was invaded and corrupted by the Anakim, the planet and our race were impacted dramatically. It meant we were no longer free to create and evolve as per the original black print of our intended creation, and we had lost memory of what had happened to us. We were recycled through continual reincarnation into the astral plane with no memory of the past lives, who we really are, where we are going, or what our real relationship is to Pa-Put and what humanity's purpose actually is. Over time, most of us lost our feeling connection to our Natharu overseers and we became numb to the pain in order to survive in anti-African based structures. What has happened to our people is not human. It is alien to the true nature of Nagaru. To be able to understand the sociopathic sick mind of the Caucasus deception systems, one would need to better understand the general attitude of an infected human or non-human having little to no remorse or empathy. Their overlords have implemented a gradual takeover of the planet and its inhabitants. What kind of strategy do they use? First, they look to how they can maximize the efficiency of the invasion process and reduce the expenditure of resources that they have to generate themselves. To achieve this goal, the secretive infiltration of the core societal organizational structures such as religions, medical, financial and legal systems are ideal to shape the value systems that generate reality belief systems they want to control. Through the engineering of a labyrinth of self-enforced enslavement policies based on fear and intimidation among the African diaspora, they have achieved the use of minimal off-planet resources by piggybacking off our continent's resources. Our people effectively enforce their own enslavement, as well as enslave their own family by giving up their rights and their resources. This is very effective for takeover and invasion with minimal resistance or revolt by inhabitants who are unaware they are being invaded. When one has control over the thoughts of one's mind, one has control over the direction and actions of the physical body, all of its parts and reclaiming of the soul energies. Whoever controls the mind controls the soul. Mind control is used to form socially acceptable belief systems and shape value systems to which are used to control and enslave Nagaru. God, religious violence, gender issues, financial and debt enslavement and sexuality are the most mind-controlled and manipulated belief systems promoted by Caucasus and their power elite to continue their enslavement and vampirism of Africans.